mean, before I got on Twitter, I was doing sketch comedy in Toronto, and I was kind of writing with my friends and performing and doing some Second City stuff. But I think it really took off when I moved to the US for school, and so I lost touch with my comedy friends in Toronto because I couldn't perform with them anymore. But I turned to Twitter and I started just writing jokes there and testing material and just putting stuff online. And I think it was through that I found an audience for my voice, and I think I figured out my voice too. And I think like social media has kind of allowed so many people to reach audiences and to reach people in ways that they might not have before. I'm not sure if you always have to be creating to be successful, but I think you always have to be either like outputting or inputting. Like, I think there's so much to be said about taking your time to figure out what you like and figure out what speaks to you and figure out the stuff that makes you laugh and really developing that sort of combination that's unique to yourself of the stuff that you love. I think one of the dangers of constantly creating is that it sort of forces you to be like a machine, and it sort of forces you, I think in the worst ways, sometimes it forces you into like a niche that you've sort of created for yourself. And it kind of puts you in a box in some ways. And I think I'm a real advocate now for like taking breaks and sort of taking a step back and seeing, okay, I've done this for a while and I've done this consistently for a couple years, and so now what is it that I feel stuck on? What is it that I feel boxed in on? And how do I sort of grow from that or change from that? So my opinion of the idea that social media is ruining comedy, I think I am a very hard disagree with that. I think social media is the best thing for comedy right now. I think we're finding so many new voices, and we're finding so many people who are speaking to audiences and to people who have not seen themselves in comedy before and who have not had voices and who have not kind of seen themselves represented or heard or have seen their experiences kind of represented in comedy before. And I think it's such a huge, I think it's such a great thing for comedy that we are finding more and more voices and getting such a greater diversity of experience through comedy. On the idea of like moving to New York or LA to do comedy, I think like social media has sort of created two different paths now. I think there are paths where now you establish a voice and you kind of figure out what it is you are and who you are through the internet and through like figuring out your comedic voice online. And through that you sort of enter more traditional structures. And that I think requires still being in New York and LA in some ways, just because that's where most of the work is. But I do think that there are many ways now to kind of make a living in comedy not being in those kind of central locations. I think the internet has allowed people to just make things in their home, and I think there are ways to make money and make careers off of just doing that wherever. And I know so many, for as many people as I know who've moved to like these central comedy hubs, there are so many people I know who've just stayed in their hometowns and stayed in the cities that they love and have just been able to create work and do it online. I think it's kind of just a question of what type of comedy and what type of structures you want to enter into. Because I think there are sort of like the film and TV and the entertainment world traditionally still operate in these centers. I think for the longest time I didn't want to move to LA, and I was kind of just writing by myself, and I had been writing books and kind of doing my work on Twitter. And the thing that made me move was actually a job offer. I got an offer to write for BoJack Horseman, and you can't say no to that. And it was kind of just like I guess I'm being pulled into it. And I think for a while I've sort of resisted that idea of moving to LA and trying to figure it out from there, because I thought, well, through the internet and through kind of my other work, I'm able to work wherever. But writing for a TV show is the first time where I have to physically be in the city. I think sort of the things that have been happening to me now, I actually don't think that they would have been affected depending on where I live. I think because the majority of my platform is writing online and sort of connecting with people online, and because up until this point I was writing books and working as an author, you can do that from anywhere. And you can write screenplays from anywhere. And I think I would have been able to do all of that in Toronto. And so I actually think that for the most part, I don't think the move between Canada and the US really would have affected the trajectory right now. I think like the only thing that's brought me to LA right now is because I'm writing for a show and I have to be here physically.